Well, the Congress of the People certainly put Box back into Boksburg today. A meeting called by disputed leader Mosiuoa Lekota turned into a full-on brawl as disgruntled party members threw punches at each other. Lekota is being accused of sowing divisions and corruption within COPE, and an unhappy faction wants him to step down. Lekota says he's not going anywhere. eNCA's Manqoba Mchunu was at the briefing and joins me with details. So, Manqoba, before we chat, let's just take a look at the moment that fight broke out.
When I took a look at this, I realized that, no, this was absolutely not correct. But by this time, the matter was already receiving the attention of the courts, including his signed affidavit. And the matter was about to go to the courts.
I mean, Manqoba, that was just such a dramatic moment. It carried on actually for quite a while. A number of people were outside. There was another little dust-up. Talk to me about what you make of it all, because you were watching it in real time as it unfolded. Having gone through all of that and seen the accusations and the counter-accusations, what actually happened and why were punches thrown?
Well, we were all taken aback. I mean, we were just sitting there listening to that briefing by the COPE leader, Mosiuoa Lekota. Of course, he was just highlighting some of, the issues that had been, raised against him. The fact that, he's been accused of corruption by some of these party members. And while he was still speaking about the fact that, he had been away when he returned to find that there were actually some decisions that were taken by some of the leaders, including the deputy president of COPE, Willie Madisha, as well as, two others who he refers to as a clique of leaders that have simply defied the constitution of the Congress of the People. And so when I was busy talking about his recovery from illness, he, of course, said that he had, cancer, had been, sick with cancer and just returned to the leadership structures when, of course, he was accused and faced, the fact that he had been suspended by these leaders. And that's when we saw this, fight break out. All of us were taken aback. All of us were caught by surprise. In fact, most of us thought that perhaps it was a robbery that was taking place at the time, only to realize that it was actually some of these COPE members. They claimed that they are leaders within the province from Ekurhuleni as well as Gauteng, and they really wanted to stop that briefing. They said that Mosiuoa Lekota doesn't have a right to continue with this briefing because he has been suspended. Of course, said you'll know that on Monday there was that statement. There was also that media briefing by the other three leaders that confirmed his suspension, saying that he has, sowed divisions within the party. But of course, the party leader is refuting this. He's also been accused of corruption. He has also refuted this, saying that if at all there are, allegations of corruption against them, then there must be proof. They must give proof of those allegations. He says that he's even willing to go to court to defend himself, of course, saying that those allegations are spurious and that there's no truth to them. But take a listen to what he had to say when addressing this particular issue.
If it need be, I'm prepared to go to the courts and say, I see here it's been said that I am corrupt. Generally, when somebody is said to be corrupt, it must mean it's somebody who's stealing public funds or stealing party funds or something. I challenge any individual who can bring forward evidence and say, on such and such a day, Mr. Lekota stole this money. I take deep pride in not being a thief. I don't want to be identified with thieves. And I will not allow anybody to say these kind of things. 702 was asking this conversation. Another radio was asking Mr. Madish, when you say he's corrupt, what corruption? Is this money? Has it to do with money? What has it to do with? So I want to say to South Africans once more, I have not and I will not steal anybody's money. If they don't mean I steal money by these allegations of corruption, they must tell the country, what is it that I did that makes me deserve to be described as corrupt? I really want to know that.
All right, just in terms of chronology, did he make that statement after the dust-up?
Well, certainly, Sally, he made the statement after that, scuffle that we saw break out there. Of course, the press briefing itself said it was disrupted for quite a few minutes. In fact, those, other leaders that had come into the party had also gone outside. They'd made several attempts to go back and stop that briefing. In fact, they were insisting that it's not going to continue, and that they simply don't believe that Mosiuoa Lekota should go ahead with this briefing. Of course, they're insisting that he has been suspended. But it's quite funny, Sally, because just, before they actually stormed into the room, we're actually listening to the statement by, that leadership structure of Mosiuoa Lekota that was also confirming that these leaders, in fact, have been suspended. The three leaders, that is Deputy President Willie Madisha, as well as the Secretary of Elections, Mzwandile Hleko, as well as the Secretary of Communications, Dennis Bloem. So they have just been confirming the fact that they have no right to suspend Mr. Lekota because they were suspended by a Congress that took place, a meeting that took place, we understand, in August, which had to look into the structures, the leadership structures of the party. We know that they were missing the deputy secretary as well as the secretary of the party. So that meeting, they say, decided on the leadership of the party and elected those particular, people that are in those positions right now. But these leaders saying that they deny and they refute that leadership that was, elected at that particular Congress. In fact, they say that the constitution of the party was not followed when it comes to how these leaders, this acting secretary general was elected as well as the deputy secretary.
All right, so let me just get this straight. Dennis Bloem, and we've got a clip from him because he spoke to us just a little earlier this afternoon. He's on board with the deputy, Willie Madisha, and it was Willie Madisha who tried to suspend Lekota on Monday. Am I right in understanding this? It's very confusing about who's where, but is that correct?
You're very correct, Sally, yes. Okay. He's actually on that faction that seemingly with Willie Madisha.
All right, let's take a listen to what he had to say.
You cannot be suspended by an unconstitutional structure. There is no way that 17 people are sitting in a rondavel and decide now that no, we are going to suspend the deputy president, the secretary for elections, and the spokesperson for the for COPE. We are not a Mickey Mouse party. This party is having a constitution, and you cannot do what these people are doing now. But you see, with us, we can go to anywhere and prove that our structure, the constitution, was followed. All the people that were supposed to be in the meeting were in the meeting when we took that decision.
All right, so Dennis Bloem, who's supporting Willie Madisha, saying they followed the constitution of COPE. And also Willie Madisha, I think, is on record saying that they invited Lekota to that meeting and he didn't show up. Did Lekota talk about whether the constitution had been followed in his view? And what is the status as of this evening within COPE?
Well, I can tell you, Sally, that, tensions remain high within COPE. But just back on that question, you just asked who really should we trust. I mean, you have a faction that belongs to Willie Madisha that says that they followed the constitution to the T. On the other hand, you have Mosiuoa Lekota also claiming that they had followed the constitution when they called that meeting that took place in August. So it's really been finger-pointing between these two sides who say that they all followed the constitution. you know that they've now suspended each other. So it's quite unclear at this point who really is, should be believed as far as, who is correct in this particular issue. But we know that the divisions certainly run deep in the party, as back as when, we saw the removal of the former deputy president, who, of course, was also involved in some of the infighting within that particular party, Mosiuoa Lekota, to be specific, Sally. But seemingly from then, there have been these struggles, these tussles within the party. And the concern, of course, going into election is what really will this do to those supporters? We know the party has been also bleeding in terms of voters and support. So it doesn't augur well for the party going into the 2024 elections. But certainly, Sally, what I can tell you is that tensions remain high. There are talks of legal battles. We know that the faction of Willie Madisha has gone to court to take some of these matters to court. And of course, this is one of the reasons why they have been suspended.
Yeah, you make an important point that they've been bleeding membership for over 10 years now. Manqoba Mchunu, thank you so much. That may be true. They got, I think, about 0.25% of the vote in the last national election. However, they are in coalition partnerships in some key areas, notably Ekurhuleni. We're going to be chatting more about this during the course of the evening. I've got JJ Tabane joining us just after 7. So lots to unpack on that issue. From one